Senator David Monroe, a symbol of power and boldness in American politics, lived in a vast mansion with modern architecture, where every detail was meticulously crafted, from the vibrant flower garden to the transparent glass walls. Yet, few knew that hidden atop the mansion, beneath a veil of luxury, lay a secret helicopter landing pad, an undeniable testament to the strength and relentless preparedness of a leader facing unpredictable dangers. Meanwhile, in a quiet corner of the same neighborhood, Karen, a loyal and fiercely conservative member of the Homeowners Association, HOA, with sharp eyes and a heart perpetually anxious about order and safety, never missed a single detail she deemed out of place. One night, she detected strange noises echoing from the rooftop of Monroe's mansion, instantly sending her mind into high alert, as if every small sound could be a harbinger of impending chaos. Karen, devoted to organization and deeply committed to maintaining the community's rules, could not tolerate even the slightest deviation from the rigid order of their ideal neighborhood. In a moment of psychological upheaval, she picked up the phone and reported the violation to the authorities, convinced that she was protecting the greater good. Yet, deep inside, she felt both a sense of pride and a creeping fear at the prospect of confronting a force far greater than she had ever imagined. Senator Monroe, accustomed to bold decisions and the risks of the political arena, carried a quiet loneliness, a growing chasm between power and humanity. He had once dreamed of a simpler life, but the endless duties of a politician bound him to a path he could not escape. Even in designing his mansion, he was haunted by the need for a discreet lifeline, ensuring the safety of himself and his family. Thus, the construction of the helicopter pad was not merely a convenience but a symbol of his constant vigilance against unforeseen threats. While Karen was busy scrutinizing every rule in the HOA's handbook, she suddenly heard the soft hum of a helicopter slicing through the night sky, a stark reminder that the world beyond their neighborhood never truly slept. Anxiety gripped her. Why is there such noise in the dead of night? She wondered, unease spreading through every fiber of her being. Something is definitely not right, she whispered, her voice both firm and hushed within the confines of her carefully arranged home, where framed family photos and HOA memorabilia adorned the walls, an atmosphere both dignified and warm, now stifled by an unrelenting suspicion. Beyond her house, the neighborhood's luxurious mansions stood in immaculate rows, their residents striving to uphold their polished images. Like Karen, many believed that strict rules were the foundation of a fair society, though they failed to acknowledge how those very regulations often stifled freedom and individual creativity. As Karen sat, lost in her mounting worries, the warm yet authoritative voice of Richard, the HOA manager, came through her phone. Karen, I've received your report, but rest assured, we will conduct a thorough check. There's nothing too concerning, he said reassuringly, though deep down, even he felt unsettled by the recent shifts in their community, subtle signs of personal freedom encroaching upon their carefully maintained order. In Monroe's mind, conflicting emotions intertwined: pride in his success, fear of lurking conspiracies, and a deep-seated loneliness. He recalled the countless nights spent under the crushing weight of political decisions that could alter the fate of a nation. Yet, in those same nights, beneath a sky scattered with stars, he felt closest to his own humanity, just a man caught between power and responsibility. At that moment, he paused by the vast window, gazing upon his garden, illuminated by soft outdoor lighting, and wondered, did every resident in this neighborhood carry their own secrets, their own quiet loneliness? Just as he, a leader burdened with unspoken concerns, concealed a hidden helicopter pad beneath a veneer of perfection? I do everything for the good of the country and the safety of my family, Monroe reminded himself, his voice a hushed whisper of a soul weathered by storms. He knew the truth of his actions could shock many, but he felt no regret for the choices he had made. As rumors and hushed conversations spread throughout the neighborhood, casting a web of curiosity and concern, Karen, unyielding and determined, remained steadfast in her belief that she was preserving order. Yet, a small part of her soul wavered, questioning whether rigid adherence to rules was always the right path. Phrases like unacceptable conveniences disrupt the balance of self-governance and order had echoed through countless HOA meetings, cementing her perspective. But now, faced with an unforeseen situation, Karen stood at a crossroads where every decision carried unforeseen consequences. Under the dim glow of streetlights, the silhouette of Senator Monroe emerged, a symbol of power yet equally a figure of contradiction and solitude, casting an intricate web of intrigue and strategy over their once ordinary community. Karen, who had always believed she was the lone guardian of neighborhood values, suddenly found herself grappling with an unsettling thought. Have I become lost in my own rigid beliefs? In the heavy silence, a soft breeze rustled the trees along the sidewalk, carrying whispers of a simpler past, a time when everything felt whole and uncomplicated. But in the world of politicians and unyielding rules, complexity and contradiction reigned supreme. And so, whether it was Monroe, burdened by the weight of leadership, or Karen, steadfast in her convictions, both could not escape a lingering sense of longing, for something lost, for something elusive. Yet, in that very sense of loss, they found the fuel to keep going, to continue their battles, both within themselves and with the ever-changing world around them. Between chaos and order, between long-held beliefs and the inevitability of change, every story held a universe of emotions, unfolding in ways no one could ever predict. In the darkened night of the affluent neighborhood, where modern mansions exuded elegance and luxury, Karen, an ardent enforcer of the strict rules of the Homeowners Association, HOA, stood by the window of her compact yet tastefully decorated living room, gazing at the quiet atmosphere outside. Suddenly, an unusual noise echoed from the rooftop of the Grand Monroe estate, accompanied by wisps of smoke drifting into the night, signaling an unexpected incident. Karen's heart pounded wildly as anxiety gripped her mind, fearing a grave violation of the meticulously upheld community regulations she cherished. Without hesitation, with the unwavering confidence of someone ever ready to uphold order, she swiftly dialed 911 and, in a firm but steady voice, reported, "I am reporting an immediate and severe violation of HOA regulations taking place on the rooftop area of this estate. Authorities must inspect it at once." Following her urgent call, police units and regulatory officers swiftly arrived at the scene, their patrol cars flashing red and blue lights, casting a chaotic yet professional and tense atmosphere. Officers in crisp uniforms stepped out with sharp, scrutinizing gazes, inspecting every hidden corner of the reported rooftop helipad. Meanwhile, at the entrance of the Monroe mansion, Richard, the HOA manager, along with several board members, anxiously exchanged worried glances, their murmurs filled with apprehension over the possible breach of the community's stringent rules. With a concerned tone, Richard assured, "We will investigate immediately. There is no need to worry. Let's wait for the findings." Yet, deep inside, he wrestled with the fear of losing credibility and the potential damage to the community's image, intensifying the weight of the situation. Karen remained steadfast, watching every move the officials made, her emotions a mix of pride for her swift action in preserving order and unease over the possibility that any violation might bring severe consequences to the neighborhood. Soon, a police officer's voice crackled over the radio, instructing a colleague, "We need to conduct a thorough examination of this rooftop area to ensure no violations have taken place. If anything is uncovered, it could severely impact the reputation of the entire community." The weight of the situation escalated. This was no mere incident but a wake-up call for the neighborhood as a whole. Karen, unwavering in her belief, stood firm, her stance exuding a resolute conviction that only courage and decisiveness could protect the values she upheld. Her report did not end with the 911 call. It was reflected in her watchful gaze, in every subtle gesture, as she reminded herself, "We cannot allow negligence to disrupt the order we have carefully built in this community." Meanwhile, inside the Monroe mansion, Mr. Monroe, the head of the household and owner of the estate, where the meticulously constructed helipad served as an advanced security measure, silently observed the unfolding scene from afar. Cold sweat trickled down his forehead as he realized that this incident was not merely a neighbor's intervention but could spiral into unforeseen complications, potentially straining the already fragile relationship between his family and the HOA. As the local media swiftly arrived to cover the event, a reporter, in a calm yet piercing voice, posed a crucial question: why do residential properties here have facilities exceeding standard limits, such as a rooftop helipad? The inquiry spread rapidly through news channels, igniting debates between those advocating for strict rule enforcement and others calling for flexibility in community management. This event painted a complex societal portrait, a clash between tradition and modernity, between personal liberties and rigid regulations. While officers continued their inspection, exchanging updates over their radios, one officer asserted, "We must ensure that no signs of a violation appear, as this could set a precedent for larger issues if left unaddressed." His words heightened the tension, reinforcing Karen's sense of pride as she witnessed the meticulous enforcement of order, feeling as though she stood at the front line in defending her community's structure. She knew her actions might spark controversy, yet at that moment, she thought only of one thing: nothing is more valuable than maintaining safety and order for everyone. At the same time, the HOA board members, their expressions determined and their voices resolute, convened an emergency meeting right at the scene to strategize their response. Richard declared, "We cannot allow an incident like this to erode the residents' trust in our management system. We must uncover the truth and address it immediately." His words carried the weight of an order, setting a grave tone as the team recognized that failure to contain the matter could trigger an uncontrollable storm, shaking the very foundation of their community. As the officials methodically scanned each section of the property, camera flashes from reporters continuously illuminated the tense atmosphere, capturing every moment. This event quickly became the center of widespread attention, not only among local residents but also among countless onlookers following updates on digital news platforms. People watched intently, wondering, was this merely an isolated incident, or was it the beginning of a fierce confrontation between personal authority and strict societal regulations? In that breathless moment, as hurried footsteps of officials echoed, urgent radio transmissions crackled, and hushed conversations filled the air, the entire neighborhood seemed engulfed in a heavy atmosphere, a mixture of unease and hope for restored order. And in those very moments, Karen's 911 report etched itself into the community's history, marking the dawn of a new chapter in the relationship between the Monroe family, the HOA board, and all residents. Gradually, people came to realize that no matter how modern and convenient life became, the fundamental values of order, safety, and fairness remained irreplaceable pillars of a functioning society. And with that realization, as the dim night lights merged with the unwavering voice of justice, the matter stood before the scale of truth, urging every individual to reflect on duty, responsibility, and the values they must uphold to maintain a secure and orderly community. As the investigators meticulously examined every hidden corner of the luxurious mansion and the carefully concealed helicopter pad, layered with sophisticated security measures that no one had suspected, each testimony and every piece of evidence cautiously gathered gradually connected the dots, lifting the veil of secrecy. Then, unexpectedly, a shocking truth emerged when a witness provided information that the true owner of the mansion and the helicopter pad was not an ordinary citizen but none other than Senator David Monroe, a powerful and prominent figure in American politics, whose influence extended beyond the ordinary. This revelation sent shockwaves through the once quiet neighborhood, where residents, long accustomed to the rigid order maintained by the HOA, suddenly found themselves grappling with the intersection of political power and conservative community regulations. At that moment, Karen, the self-proclaimed guardian of order in the neighborhood, who had always taken pride in her unwavering role in upholding the community's unchangeable rules, suddenly felt lost and uncertain. It was as if all her vigilance and determination had been reduced to mere fragments in the face of the overwhelming power wielded by Senator Monroe. A question gnawed at her mind. Were her actions, though driven by a deep belief in fairness, truly justified when confronted with an authority beyond all expectations? News of the shocking revelation spread rapidly through every street and hidden corner of the community. Police radios buzzed with urgent discussions, and a stern officer turned to his colleague, saying, "We need to verify every detail because if this is confirmed, it will send shockwaves through the entire community." Meanwhile, digital news platforms and local television channels quickly picked up the story, with reporters expressing their astonishment. An elderly resident, visibly shaken, remarked, "I never imagined that amidst the strict rules we take pride in, such immense power could exist." The HOA immediately convened emergency meetings. During a tense discussion, Richard, the steadfast community manager, declared, "We must confront this truth seriously and reassess our regulations, because if we don't, political power will overshadow the order we have carefully built." His words echoed through the streets, sending ripples of realization across the neighborhood, from ordinary residents to key figures in the management board. On the media front, a young reporter, with a calm yet piercing voice, posed the pressing question, "Senator Monroe, can you clarify the purpose of constructing a private helicopter pad within this neighborhood?" With a composed demeanor exuding undeniable authority, Senator Monroe responded, "I built this facility to ensure maximum security in emergency situations, to protect my family and those I care about. If this has led to misunderstandings, I regret any concerns it has caused." His response only deepened public confusion and ignited a fiery debate on social media. Citizens found themselves caught in a whirlwind of questions regarding the balance between political power and traditional community regulations. Listening to the heated discussions over the phone from a like-minded friend, Karen murmured, "I never thought my actions would contribute to exposing such a massive secret. Now I feel lost, caught in the storm of power." Her words painted a vivid picture of her inner turmoil, torn between her steadfast belief in order and justice and the undeniable truth that behind the mansion's opulence and unimaginable privileges stood a senator with immense power. Not only Karen but the entire neighborhood found themselves pausing to reflect on the relationship between individuals and authority, between order and change. Meanwhile, press conferences and open discussions were held at the community center, drawing in voices from all walks of life, elderly residents, seasoned by experience, and passionate young individuals all expressed their perspectives. Some saw Senator Monroe's presence as a symbol of ultimate security, while others feared that political interference would erode the community's core values. As the exchanges grew increasingly intense, a young resident declared, "We need transparency and must understand the true motivations behind these facilities, because if we don't, we will never know if we are living in a truly just environment." Another resident, speaking in a solemn tone, added, "Strict regulations have helped us maintain order, but when political power intervenes, everything can become chaotic." Their words struck like lightning across the night sky, painting a striking image of a community suddenly shaken by the realization that beneath its carefully maintained order and security lay deep-seated conflicts and contradictions, where tradition now stood face-to-face with the tides of change. Amidst the relentless flashes of cameras and the rising cacophony of murmurs, Senator Monroe maintained his composure. He stepped into the crowd, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, his gaze steady and unreadable, as if entirely unaffected by either criticism or admiration. The sound of his footsteps echoed through the streets, prompting onlookers to ponder, within the heart of such a powerful man, was there still room for empathy and humanity, or was he merely governed by cold, unwavering decisions? As conversations unfolded and gazes met, the revelation of Senator Monroe's identity became the talk of the town, marking the beginning of a dramatic new chapter. In this unfolding saga, each individual, whether the staunchly traditional Karen or the impassioned youth, began questioning their place and responsibilities in a society where power and order constantly intertwined. Political analysts did not hesitate to remark, "This event clearly illustrates the clash between the rigid principles of the past and the inevitable transformations of the modern era. We must learn to adapt or risk being swept away by the currents of power." Such statements only intensified the community's growing sense of unease and frustration. Meetings and discussions were no longer just platforms for expressing opinions but arenas where residents desperately sought answers to difficult questions. Karen, once proud of her role in upholding order, now found herself sinking into an emotional storm. Every glance, every hushed whisper from neighbors and investigators alike reminded her that no one could remain untouched by the intersection of power and personal convictions. Though debates showed no sign of resolution, one truth remained undeniable: Senator David Monroe, with all his power, audacity, and the secrets he had carefully concealed, was the figure behind it all. His revelation was not merely a turning point in the relationship between the Monroe family and the community, but a defining moment that forced the HOA and the public to confront the reality that in modern society, power and order are two sides of the same coin. Through intense dialogues, contentious remarks, and the emotional divide among the residents, this shocking revelation served as a powerful reminder that transparency and accountability, no matter how formidable the forces of politics, must always be the bedrock of a just and civilized community. After the matter was clarified and public opinion surged like a storm, sweeping away all falsehoods, Senator David Monroe, renowned for his power and boldness in the political sphere, wielded his full influence to turn the intense confrontation into an opportunity to push the Homeowners Association (HOA) management to reconsider the outdated and conservative regulations governing this prestigious residential community. His aim was to pave the way for necessary reforms, ensuring flexibility and fairness for all members. In this context, Karen, who had once taken pride in her role as the guardian of order, now faced a wave of fierce public criticism for her excessive interference, which had caused widespread disorder. She became the symbol of an overly rigid attitude in modern society. During an emergency HOA meeting, Richard, the community's loyal manager, sternly told Karen, "We must learn to listen to everyone's voices, not just yours. Safety and order do not come solely from rigid adherence to rules but also require flexibility to adapt to changing times." Hearing this, Karen, her eyes filled with sadness and regret, began to question whether her strict enforcement had truly benefited the community or was merely a manifestation of her own arrogance. As public discourse gradually absorbed the weight of change, long-standing tensions between power and conservative regulations were increasingly exposed through spirited debates on television programs and social media. A young resident, speaking with passionate conviction, declared, "We need to open our hearts to change because if we cling too tightly to old rules, we will never move forward." Immediately afterward, an experienced elder added, "Remember, strict regulations may help maintain order, but we must also heed the voice of the times. Otherwise, we will lose the essence of freedom and creativity." Their words sparked a heated yet respectful debate during the meeting. In that moment, Senator Monroe, with his composed demeanor and thoughtful gaze, explained, "I built these superior amenities not only to ensure maximum safety for families and the community but also as a preventive measure for emergency situations. If my actions seem overly strict, it is merely my way of fulfilling my responsibility to the country and the people I care about. Therefore, I hope everyone can understand and work together toward an optimal solution for the common good." His words helped to somewhat ease the anger of certain factions of public opinion but simultaneously ignited a new wave of debate as social analysts began discussing the conflict between personal freedom, innovation, and conservative regulations. This underscored the importance of understanding and respecting authority while also recognizing the necessity of flexibility in communal governance, a wake-up call for the entire community. At the same meeting, as the camera flashes and the murmurs of residents echoed like the heartbeat of a community in upheaval, an analytical expert, in a calm yet sharp tone, asserted, "Excessive intervention, even with good intentions, can lead to unforeseen consequences. Sometimes, the identity of the person behind luxurious amenities can completely alter the course of an incident." This statement created an atmosphere of deep introspection among community members, prompting them to reconsider their roles in maintaining order while embracing flexibility in managing communal life. Meanwhile, in a hushed exchange among a few residents, Karen softly admitted, "I never thought my actions could trigger such a crisis. Now, I feel like I've been swept into the currents of power beyond my control, and I wonder if there's any way to right this wrong." A fellow board member with a solemn yet resolute voice responded, "We must learn from our mistakes because only through them can we build a better community, one where flexibility and tolerance are paramount." Beyond the meeting room, television interviews and newspaper articles continued to highlight the story of Senator Monroe and Karen as a symbol of the clash between political authority and traditional regulations. It marked the beginning of a dramatic new chapter in the history of the residential community where every action carried meaning. In that very moment, public awareness began to shift, realizing that mistakes, while inevitable, also serve as valuable lessons. The community came to understand that change is not something to be avoided but rather an opportunity to restructure and seek deeper human values. For only by listening, empathizing, and respecting one another can barriers be overcome and a brighter future be built. As Senator Monroe reminded everyone, let us face the truth and move forward together because every mistake, whether big or small, can become a precious lesson for the future. As the final lights dimmed, the entire community, from the energetic youth to the seasoned elders, felt the profound message that change is inevitable. Only through unity, adaptability, and trust in one another can a society be shaped where fairness, understanding, and humanity prevail, a testament to the saying, "Change begins with us." Through all the debates, lessons, and surging emotions, the story of Senator Monroe's luxurious amenities case became a symbol of the times, opening a new chapter for the community. It reinforced the reality that every decision, whether positive or negative, has the potential to reshape lives. It also served as a realization for all, both leaders and ordinary residents, that nothing in life is permanent. Everything is subject to change, and flexibility, along with the ability to adapt to new dynamics, is the key to unlocking the future. With this mindset, the final message that everyone, from seasoned leaders to passionate young people, wished to impart to one another was this: only by listening to one another, respecting one another, and working together to overcome difficulties can we create a society where every individual feels safe, valued, and free to thrive. Therefore, this case was not just a lesson about power and order, but also a reminder that excessive intervention, even with good intentions, can lead to unforeseen consequences. And sometimes, the identity of the person behind luxurious amenities can completely transform the course of an event, ushering in a new era of creativity and hope for the future of the community.